Welcome back to NHK Newsline. It's 11 a.m. on Tuesday in Tokyo. I'm Miki Yamamoto. South Korea's president is now in Pyongyang for his third meeting with the North's leader. The stakes might be higher than ever as Moon Jae-in is under pressure to show progress, especially on Kim Jong-un's commitment to take concrete steps towards denuclearization. Here are some of the highlights of our coverage from last hour, including analysis by NHK's Yoshiyuki Aoki in studio and defense expert Kim Chan-soo from Seoul. All right, now the door has opened and Moon Jae-in has appeared with his wife, the First Lady. Kim Jong-un and his wife is waiting for them at the foot of the ramp. Yoshiyuki, what do you think is in Moon Jae-in's mind right now?
He's very happy to have Kim Jong-un at the airport. So they have become friendly from the previous two previous summits.
Shaking hands and greeting each other.
Yes, it must be an emotional moment for the President Moon because his parents are from the north. They fled to the south during the Korean War. So perhaps he's reflecting on those personal ties.
Now we are watching an official welcome ceremony for Moon. Yoshiyuki, there was a grand welcome ceremony for Kim Jong-un when he met in Panmunjom in April too.
Yes. So at the April summit, South Korea's government has prepared a welcome ceremony like this. At the time, they had the guard of honor, and this time, the North has prepared this welcoming ceremony at the airport.
Mr. Kim in Seoul, how would you characterize the inter-Korean relationship at the moment? There seems to have been a thaw in relations recently.
Yes, there's thawed quite visibly over the last couple of months because we have exchanged various different meetings in the sports area, in the military field, and also the cultural events as well. So in general, our relation between the two Koreas have thawed over the last, particularly since the start of this year, and we are expecting more to come in the remainder of the year. So this must be the biggest challenge for Mr. Moon Jae-in because many people in Korea and the United States and also in other countries as well, they're expecting Mr. Moon Jae-in who can play a very important arbitrator role, mediating between Washington and Pyongyang, because we have some very serious military talks, including the ICBMs, SLBMs, and all kinds of North Korea WMDs. So how he is going to able to break this deadlock not only between North and South Korea, but between North Korea and the United States.
We are seeing an enthusiastic welcome for Moon Jae-in at this welcome ceremony in Pyongyang. All right, now we head to Seoul, where Kim Chan-soo from the Korean Institute for Defense Analyses is watching today's event. Mr. Kim, thank you for being with us again this hour. So this is Kim Jong-un and Moon Jae-in's third meeting since April. You've touched on it earlier, but tell us once again, what's the biggest challenge this time around?
The biggest challenge for this third meeting between North and South Korea leaders is whether the two leaders can come up with a joint statement or joint press conference in which North Korea pledges its disarmament and lays down a detailed roadmap for denuclearization, including some pragmatic measures to implement denuclearization. This is the most important challenge for the two leaders.
But there has been growing skepticism about the North's denuclearization over the past few months. How likely do you think it is that Pyongyang will eventually abandon its nuclear arsenal?
That's a very difficult question because eventually, it is very difficult for North Korea to, disband its nuclear weapons anytime soon. But whether they're going to really eventually, denuclearize all their nuclear weapons and other arsenals depends on many factors, including the guarantee they get from South Korea and from the United States for its own regime in the north. So if the regime is guaranteed and economic assistance is provided for many countries in the neighborhood, this will give a tremendous impetus for the Kim Jong-un to go on with the denuclearization. Otherwise, it will be very difficult to imagine that they are going to, scrap their nuclear weapons for nothing. So this is a very difficult job, not only for Mr. Kim Jong-un, but also for outside the leaders, including Mr. Moon Jae-in.
I'm sure it is. The relationship between the two Koreas has thawed over the past year. How might that warming relationship influence this week's summit?
I think because of the good exchanges between the two Koreas, including the Pyeongchang Winter Olympics and also Asia Games in Jakarta, Palembang, they paved a very important, favorable atmosphere for this summit meeting this time around in Pyongyang, because people became very familiar with North Korean leader himself, and also how much they are prepared to better their relations with the South Korea and the United States. So this definitely paved a very positive, signs for another meeting between North and South Korea, but possibly with some other meetings coming next, particularly with the United States and also with China.
So what results should people watch out for, and what do you expect out of this latest summit?
Again, I think that the most important is whether the two leaders can really come up with a joint statement, a press conference, in which they really show a kind of roadmap, not just the willingness to go nuclear, denuclearization, but also kind of some tangible, pragmatic kind of the means to denuclearize its nuclear weapons arsenal. So I think that whether they're going to come up with this tangible signs, very visible signs, is very important, and this is exactly what we have to watch for.
We will definitely be watching out for those points. Thank you very much, Dr. Kim. That was Kim Chang-soo from the Korean Institute for Defense Analyses. And we will continue to bring you the latest developments on the summit in Pyongyang throughout the day, so please stay with us. Now, North Korea was a topic of discussion earlier at the UN. The U.S. and Russia locked horns over the enforcement of sanctions against Pyongyang. The American ambassador called an urgent Security Council meeting to discuss alleged violations and accused Russia of cheating.
Russia has been cheating, and now they've been caught. Despite its repeated support for UN sanctions, Russia is actively working to undermine the enforcement of the Security Council's sanctions on North Korea. Its violations are not one-offs. They are systematic.
Haley noted more than 100 illicit transfers of oil at sea that she says surpass the limit imposed on the North. She identified a Russian ship she alleges was involved and accuses Russia of working to delete references to it in a UN report on violations. Russia's ambassador fought back. Vasily Nebenzia says the U.S. heightened tensions and that the report lacked objectivity. He denied the Russian vessel in question violated sanctions. Representatives from other countries called for steady sanctions implementation, as well as the release of the report without referring to Russia. Japanese Ambassador Koro Besho said enforcing the sanctions is the only way to force North Korea to change. And members of the International Atomic Energy Agency are calling on North Korea to take concrete action toward denuclearization. They discussed Pyongyang's nuclear program at the opening of the agency's annual general conference. In a recorded video statement, Director General Yukio Amano expressed grave concern about signs the North was running nuclear facilities before and after the Inter-Korean summit in May. Japan's Science and Technology Minister noted the situation surrounding North Korea is unpredictable. An Austrian delegate said the North should take concrete steps to completely and irreversibly denuclearize. In a message read by a representative, U.S. President Donald Trump said he was pleased Kim Jong-un has reaffirmed his commitment to complete denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. Before the meeting wraps up on Friday, Japan and others want to adopt a resolution demanding that North immediately abandon its nuclear program. A similar one was approved last year.